Hello, everybody. This month we have Maggie with us. And what I'd like to do, here's what I like to do with these is just kind of jump right in. So I'll let you do a little intro. Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I am married to my husband, Mike. We've been married this June will be 21 years. I am the mom of 3 boys. My first child would have been 20. He passed away at a very young age, 3 months of age. My second child is soon to be 18 this month. And then I have a 16-year-old, all boys.
All boys.
All boys, yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. All right, so let's talk about your real estate journey.
Okay.
What got you into real estate?
So I needed something to kind of just do part-time on the side because I had my own nonprofit organization that I was running.
Yep.
So a friend of mine was a real estate agent and she was looking for someone to kind of help her out in regards to transactions and so forth. So on a part-time basis, I was a transaction coordinator for her for about almost 2 years. And then after that, I kind of made the decision of needed to make a little bit more money, but at a very flexible pace. So the initial thought was I was going to go and get my license to be a licensed transaction coordinator instead of just one without a license. And then as I was going through it, it was sales is what I've always done. Sales is what I'm good at.
Yep.
And I needed the flexibility. Real estate was always going to be part-time for me because my nonprofit was the full-time for me.
Right.
So it gave me the flexibility that I needed to do.
All right, so when was this happening? When were you getting the license and what year was that?
It's actually this month will be March 15th of 2018 is when I got my license.
Oh, okay,
So it'll be
awesome.
7 years.
About 7 years.
Mhm.
So when did you actually kind of transition out of transaction coordinating and into like sales?
So I had left transaction coordinating probably that September or October before. There was a real estate class that had come up that following January, and I was undecided if I was going to take it because I knew that I had a very large fundraising event that March I was having, but I said, that April. And I thought it would work perfect timing if I could get through the class, if I could pass the class, if I could pass the state exam, and then I could go right into real estate at the time.
So let's talk about that first year in real estate sales. How did it go for you?
It actually was very well.
Okay.
I actually got my license in March. I right away hung my license with Keller Williams in April, but I actually did not start doing any business until June. And I actually ended up with a really good year that year, so I was pleased.
So let's quantify that good year, like whether you want to talk about units or volume or.
I did a little over 4 million.
4 million year one.
Correct.
You considered yourself to be part-time still, right?
Correct.
Got it. So you were still running the nonprofit.
Correct.
Now you're in real estate sales. Year one, which wasn't a full year, part-time, 4 million.
Yes.
But what year was this again?
2018.
2018. All right, so let's fast forward a little bit. What did, let's go to like 2000, we were all kind of hit with something in 2020 called a pandemic, right? The rules of engagement changed for the entire world and for us in the industry. What did 2020 and 2021 look like for you in terms of like your closed volume?
So I believe 2021 or 2020 I was at 11 million, and then 2021, 2022 I was at 14 million.
14 million, got it. All right. During this period of time in sales, was it just you by yourself?
Yes.
So you were doing it all. You wore all the hats in your business. You were your own transaction coordinator too, is that right?
Correct.
Got it, perfect. Even through 2021, it has just been you.
Correct.
Okay, all right. So now we're up to speed with where you are volume-wise in a period of time that was kind of crazy. 21 was a crazy year, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of homes being transacted. Things were moving really, really fast. Let's talk about the years after, like 2022 through like even last year, 2024. What does your volume look like?
So last year, my volume, I believe, was right at about 8 million.
Okay.
I had, as I said, I think God had a different plan for me.
Mhm.
My mother passed away in October of 2023, and so not purposefully, but I was helping my siblings finalize everything for her. So the first 3 months of 2024, I really didn't focus on anything in regards to real estate. It
Sure.
was just more, I never had my first transaction until April of 2024 because I was settling my mom's estate and
Right.
grieving and so forth.
Which, you know, is probably still a process that's still
It
happening
is.
in some degree. Yeah, because I too lost my mom about a little over a year ago. And even, you know, especially when they're out of state and settling and trying to learn the rules of that particular state, things can get a little challenging at times,
Right.
right? Yeah, so I appreciate you sharing that. So, all right, so 8 million last year. You really, again, it was kind of a part-time year where it really wasn't a full calendar year. And you don't always just kind of jump in and immediately go, okay, I'm going back to work and have a transaction immediately either, right? There's a ramp up time to this. So I would guess that probably the majority of last year's results really probably started to show up from like May onward. Would that be a fair statement?
Sure,
Yeah, okay, perfect. Do you consider yourself to be full-time or part-time now?
I'm full-time.
Full-time. And so I want to go back now. So thank you for setting the stage for all of this. Even if you go back to like 2018, what has been the number one source of your business? Where do your transactions come from?
Sphere of influence, my friends.
So what does that look like? Because I'd really like to get a handle on this, because so much of what I've been talking about, even with newer and brand new agents, the sphere of influence is the engine of your business, right?
Sure.
So like, what does your sphere look like? How many people are in it? What does communication look like between you and them? You know, kind of break it down for us.
It's hard in that when you look at a contact list, I have a very large contact list.
Yep.
And part of that comes from having a nonprofit for so long.
Sure,
To where
yeah.
reaching out to people and, you know, in regards to donations, friends, supporting events that I did, so forth like that. Just through the years of just, you know, with that part of it. So when you talk about database, so to say, there's.
Yeah, okay, we can frame it. Keller Williams lingo, MET database is what we talk about, right? So let's start there. What size is that?
About 2,500.
About 2,500 people. So inside the MET database, we have Sphere of Influence, SOI. How big is that group?
Probably about 1,500 to 1,800.
Okay, that's still a pretty sizable sphere of influence that, all right, I'm gonna actually take us down a little bit deeper. I'm gonna do a little bit deeper dive into this than I thought maybe I was. So inside the sphere of influence, could you identify even a smaller group of people who, without fail, know, trust, and love you enough that they're gonna either repeat or send referrals to you?
Absolutely.
How
That's
big
the
do you,
majority.
how big do you think that group is?
I'd say probably maybe 50 to 100 at the most.
Yeah, okay, now we're getting into the heart of it, because typically what we tend to find is that, of course, even with our MET world, our MET database, it's not all created equal, right? I mean, there's gonna be people that we're friends with that sometimes will never transact with us or won't refer, and as I've shared it in the past, even in my own world, I'd rather, sometimes in those instances, I'd rather have the relationship than I am worried about the transaction. Yet I also know that I'm gonna have, you know, that subset of people, and it's usually fairly small, less than 100, that really drive the majority of our opportunities every single year.
Sure.
Yeah, love that. All right, so let's talk about communication with that group. How frequently do you think you communicate? And I know we could even do a deeper dive into that, because communication's going to look different, but on average, how many times a quarter, a month, a year do you think you communicate with that group of people? I get it, some of them are gonna be in person, some of them are social.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that it's just more,
How do they know you? How do they remember you when people they know that you may not? How do they remember you to send that referral to you? What would you think the number one thing is?
I don't know, I truly just believe it's one, how I did with them, with the
Yeah.
business.
Yeah,
And two, I think it's just the friendships that I've established through the years with them that, I have, it's kind of strange, I have different pockets of
Mhm.
friends that,
Yep.
that I have relationships with, that I nurture, whether it's, hey, just checking in, seeing how you're doing, or thinking about you, or, it's never been about business. I
Thank
don't
you.
think it is. For me, it's never been about the business. It's
Sure.
just, I don't,
well, I love what you just said, the checking in, hey, how are you? Something that showed up during the pandemic, just in coaching agents conversations, I'm like, we're all kind of in the same boat. Imagine if somebody called you and said, hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling through this? What do you need, right? Just having somebody check in goes a long way in a relationship, whether it's a business relationship or personal or whatever, right? So to me, we just started calling those care calls. And I'm like, just because the pandemic sort of ended, why should we stop doing care calls? Because the reality of it is, if we really do care about the people and we're not making it about business, a lot of times just that phone call of saying, hey Maggie, it's Chip, how you doing, what's new, what's up, right? And if you shared with me some things that are new or what's up in your life, I'm probably gonna get some clues as to maybe a future real estate need anyways.
right,
Because life's still gonna show up, isn't it?
yeah,
It comes at us, no matter what's happening with anything going on economically or weather or state of the industry or anything else, people still have real estate needs.
I think it's just the genuine relationship that I have with them. I think
Yeah.
it's the friendships that I have, it's the, they trusted me in the beginning to help them, and, I maintained the friendship with them, and then it was easy for them to refer me to someone else, or the reputation that I have in the business because of them, that it's easy for someone else to reach out to me.
Well, people will do business with who they know, trust, and like, right? So especially if you transacted with somebody, you created the experience that they received during the transaction. It wasn't just a transaction, right? They got to witness and see you in action, at bat for them, and probably even going above and beyond for them. That was the experience that lends them to want to be able to refer, right? And of course, hopefully repeat business as well. Yeah, so sometimes here's what we find, I'm gonna go back to your nonprofit days. Running a nonprofit's not an easy thing, is it?
No, it's not.
Talk about lead generation, man. Because typically you're calling people for, I need you, or I need your money, or I need both, right?
Correct.
And that's a much different lead generation conversation than, hey, let's talk about real estate and how can I help with that? So I think, you probably set the stage in a really great way with that group of people. And you have probably a core group in that too that has transferred over now into real estate, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. All right, so thinking, let's go into, we're in 2025 now. How you doing with your goals? Are you feel you're on track for the year? We're almost at the end of the first quarter.
Okay.
How you doing?
Better than I expected.
Okay, and what would you attribute that to?
Just,
The relationships?
yeah, people trust me. I mean,
Yeah.
and I'm very, very appreciative of that. Just very appreciative of that.
And I'm sure that probably shows up when people send you opportunities too. Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
referrals. Matter of fact, have transactions with a few right now that were referred to me from someone else that, that are just friends of mine. And I think that the biggest thing for me is that I don't make it a transaction. I do know at the end of it, Not always, but I feel like at the end of it, I have gained another friend.
I love
Because
that.
I go into it with, I always tell people I wear two hats. I wear a real estate hat and I wear a friend hat. And in this transaction, I'm going to be both to you.
Sure, I love that. So thinking about where you are now, and thinking about your sphere of influence, and thinking about all the different things, do you consider your lead generation time to be work? Is it hard?
No, because some of my lead generation time is not really lead generating in regards to kind of what I would think, so to say.
So it's not that pick up the phone, grind it out, I gotta find an opportunity or an appointment.
No,
Right.
no.
I'm hoping everybody's hearing the clues that Maggie's leaving us. Lead generation is about relationships. Stay in the relationships, provide value during the relationship, check in on people, see how they're doing, which we could categorize as lead follow-up, right? And while we may not always see an immediate result for us out of it, we're strengthening that relationship along the way, right?
Sure,
And at some point in the future, then you get your calls.
right.
People reach out to you and say, hey, by the way, so-and-so needs some help.
One of the probably ironic things that I did a few years ago, my husband and I moved into a new neighborhood during 2020, and I didn't really hardly know anybody in the neighborhood at all. But just a few, but I thought I more wanted to get to know people in the neighborhood, so I started a Bunko group.
Yeah.
And so once a month we would host Bunko. And from that point is where I've done more sales in my neighborhood than I even thought that I would with people that I didn't know. That was just, I mean, it's just been a blessing, but that was not my intent of it. It was just,
You wanted to
I
get
wanted
to know
to get to know people.
Sure,
I
right,
didn't,
you're in the new.
didn't know anybody in the neighborhood.
Absolutely. So really what you did, there's a strategy we could really kind of look at. You really were doing some leverage with lead generation. You were getting to know people, new people that you didn't have a relationship with. And at the same time, you're through them getting to know other people, because I'm sure in that group there were people that said, hey, my neighbor's thinking about actually selling their house.
Sure.
Yeah. So they kind of introduced that conversation, that opportunity to you.
Correct.
So again, I hope everybody's hearing this. The power of the sphere of influence. The entire Met database is not created equal. You typically can identify a small subset of the people who will probably feed, to be honest guys, the numbers we're seeing, 85% or more of your business will come from this small group of people. This is where we follow up. This is where we build the relationships. We can strategize it, right, to grow that group of people. Lead generation doesn't have to be boring. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be just constantly on the phone. It can be socially driven, and you can have some fun along the way.
I think that's where it is more authentic.
I love that.
It's just more authentic than, not that I have a problem picking up the phone and calling anybody. I mean, like
Sure.
you run a nonprofit,
Sure.
that's what you do.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it never felt right for me,
So yours is really more of a natural way to do it.
It is. I other than picking up the phone and calling someone that it might be, someone has given me your information and they've asked me to call you because you're interested, need a realtor. I don't believe I've ever called anybody.
You've never cold prospected.
No,
Yeah,
never have.
love that. All right, that's all I had for us today. Anything else you want to share with your colleagues out there?
No, just.
All right, we appreciate you guys being here this month. Thank you. We'll see everybody soon. Take care.